Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Matt Kelly, Matty Riser, WrestleMats back with you. Another WrestleMats after dark ish. We're not quite as late as we were the last time, Matty, but here we are at 10 p.m. East, getting live on YouTube, X, and Facebook all at the same time. Is that right, Matty?
Oh yeah, all over, baby. We're kicking butt
Oh,
on
man.
Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Can't beat it. We're here for you.
And what a big episode to really go live with this particular stream. I think it's a fun one for people to jump in and interact and see what we got going on in the name of the NFL draft happening this week. Maddie, we said, what if we do a startup WWE draft where it's just a blank slate out there, a la, you and I love fantasy football as well. Just like a startup draft in fantasy football, nobody is on your roster. You got to start over from scratch. Who would you take? You got to weigh that star power, the age, what you need, the big man, the heels, the faces. You got to consider it all.
Yeah, and with the startup, you're thinking the future of your company. You're thinking of long term, not just short term. You got to think Raw runs every week of the year, SmackDown, pay per views, PLEs, everything. So you've got to think, like you said, short term, long term. Is this guy too old? Is he going to be on TV enough? So many things to consider. We went 20 players here. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yep, you got it. We are gonna pick 20 superstars throughout this. Now, if we end up picking a tag team, they do count as one tandem, so just keep that in mind as well. So we might end up with an odd number somewhere throughout there. But as we get through this draft, we'll break it down, just kind of our thought process, because it may seem obvious to you listening, like who should be that 101, that very first pick, who you would start your franchise with, but I think it's different for everybody, and that's the beauty of this. There is no, to use NFL terms, there is no Ashton Genty, there is no Bijan Robinson this year.
Right.
You can just pick whoever you want. And Matty, I'm interested to see how different and how crazy we really get here.
That's what's going to make this so much fun because you gave me the first pick. So I had a lot of things to consider. I had age, star power. How long can these guys go? But when you think of the WWE brand, you think of star power, you think of a guy, the Cenas, the Stone Colds, the guys that can carry the ship. So I went none other than the captain, the quarterback of the WWE universe and WWE right now, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes with pick one.
Yeah, I mean, can't argue it. Cody is 39. He's about to be 40 in June. And you and I have talked about it, though, in previous episodes of there's way less house shows happening now for the WWE. So a lot of superstars now are saying because there's less road dates, because there's less mileage on the body, because they're taking less bumps, right? You might be
Right.
able to extend that career out a few more years than maybe you would have under the McMahon regime where you're on the road 300 days a year and things like that. So Cody Rhodes, he's been a star player ever since he came back to WWE. Undesirable to undeniable. And I mean, Cody's just got the goods. Even though he lost at Mania, what is that? Three straight headline Manias, right? Main
3 or
events.
4, man. That's, I mean, I think even what was it? Seth
Oh,
Rollins
four, I
night.
guess if you count
Yeah.
the night too. Yeah.
So just kind of, it's one of those. It's crazy to see where a guy can go when he cuts his teeth and he kind of makes a name for himself in AEW, what he was able to do, and now to come over to WWE. And I think when he comes back from his break or whatnot, he's going to be right there at the top of the card, back at it, but only 39. So he's still got, I'd say, another good 5 or 6 years left on the tires. What would you say? Is that about an accurate 5 years, you'd say, with Cody Rhodes?
I mean, I think so. I don't mean this as a slight at all. I don't think he's going to go as long as his brother or his dad. I think they were just that's kind of all they knew how to do. And Cody is kind of this generation where they have things, they have plans that are past wrestling. Now, is Cody in some sort of creative capacity down the line? Maybe, but I don't think he's going to be in the ring nearly as long. So yeah, I think you're right there in the wheelhouse of about 4 or 5 years. And with my first pick, Maddie, I went a little bit younger and I was trying to, again, play that game, work that balance of star power, age, how long I'm going to have somebody on the roster. So the way that I went with my first pick is this is a superstar that is currently he has not peaked yet.
Right.
In fact, after this last PLE, WrestleMania, we said, oh, he is going to the moon. And I am talking the man that's got the dogs barking every single Monday, Braun Breaker. So I know it might be a little bit controversial to go there at 1, but I just think we are barely scratching the surface right now with Braun Breaker.
Dude, a year on the main roster, IC champ, already paired with Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman. Dude, the sky's the limit for this guy, and you're getting him as your cornerstone, only 27 years old. That's crazy to think how much talent this guy has. And just in the first year, what he has done, I think it's hard to bet on anybody else who's had an immediate impact as much as Braun Breaker has.
Anybody, this maybe it's too early, but maybe it's not. Best spear ever?
Oh my God. I mean, how do you say
hard
not?
to argue, right?
Yeah, the momentum going into the spear and what he does, even if it's not the best spear in the ring. No, I'll take that back. Bouncing off the ropes and spearing people. Yeah, he's got the best. He's got the best spear, hands down.
Yeah, when he hits the regular spear, it's still fine. But the one where he picks up and runs by a couple of times and then comes off the ropes, I mean, that thing looks absolutely devastating. And he hit it multiple times this past Monday on Sami Zayn, which is an interesting feud that we got going, and an interesting angle there, kind of for the first victim, if you will, of the Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, Paul Heyman grouping there. So, yeah, man, I couldn't pass up Breaker. I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, all right, if who else gets taken, we just kind of live with it. And I think Breaker just has the potential to, for a decade or more, be at the top of WWE soon.
Dude, and getting to sit behind Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins to kind of coach you up to probably could be the number 1 picks in this as well, because they are so damn talented. But to pair a 27-year-old guy who's got a dad and an uncle, don't forget about the Steiner brothers, probably top 2 or 3 tag team of all time. Dude, yep. Breaker's in for some real deal gold as we keep going.
Absolutely. Who you got next?
All right, number 3. To me, this is another guy, cornerstone. He's been on fire lately. I just think, I don't know if our talk last week about heels and just how there's not a lot of great heels out there that are true heels that the crowd's not rooting for. This guy makes you hate his guts. And he's such a physical wrestler. He's just the ultimate anti-American, and that's Gunther, the ring general. Everything I've seen him do for the last, couple years, even in NXT, his body transformation, this guy gets it. He understands what the WWE is all about. And I think getting him at 3 is just lockstep of where he should be.
Gunther is such a throwback that it shouldn't work, but everything about him does work. And that's why he's consistently been, just on this steady upward trajectory from the time in NXT UK, then his time in NXT itself, and then we've seen it here on the main roster with a was it the longest ever Intercontinental reign, right?
Yep.
Yeah, the longest ever Intercontinental reign, goes out and gets a world title, in a big spot at WrestleMania the last couple of years. Everything about the presentation, to your point, his body transformation, he's like Randy Orton in the sense that everything he does in the ring means something. Like it's not necessarily as fluid as Randy, but it always means something.
Yeah, I'm so high on this guy. We've heard other people like The Undertaker say just how good of a wrestler this guy is. And I think he's going to be around in the WWE for a long time. I think we're just starting to really see just how dominant this guy can be for the future of WWE.
Agreed. With my next pick, I had to set myself up for the building block, the cornerstone of what I would consider the best women's wrestler in the world right now, and that is Mommy, the Eradicator, Rhea Ripley. She has been so good for so long now, Maddie, and she is just now 28 years old. I think she is a one of one in terms of her work rate, the way that she sells, her power, her look, everything about the presentation. And it's going to be interesting because we've seen her be, in a very sort of heel character when she was with the Judgment Day. Now she's so over that you can't, like, hardly anybody can boo Rhea Ripley. But then again, everybody's kind of wanting something new from Rhea, and I do think she can give us that. I think she's, man, I think she can be there as long as she wants at the top.
Yeah, and she's already 3-time women's champion. Like, to me, I think it draws a hard bargain. She might go down. You said she's only 28. By the time she's done, she might be the greatest female wrestler of all time, in my opinion.
I think it's very possible. And who would you say is the greatest female wrestler of all time as of right now?
I don't know. That's a tough one to answer, man, because it's evolved
Yeah,
so much.
right.
It's, dude, it's got to be, in that four horsewoman territory right now. But I think Rhea's nipping at the heels right there.
I think Rhea, Bianca are both kind of going to be in the conversation, and I think a lot of people would say Charlotte. I think there's a lot of people that would probably say Sasha Banks. You've got a case for people like Asuka. You've got a case for the groundbreakers like Trish Stratus. And I
Right.
think it's just a matter of preference and which direction you want to go and what you think of the era now versus times gone by and that sort of thing. But Rhea Ripley, to me, it's not really going to be about title reigns necessarily when she's all said and done, because I don't think there's I don't think there's a very good chance that anybody gets to where Charlotte's at for quite a long time, if ever. But I
Yeah.
think the impact of her reigns, the impact of what she's doing in the ring, and what she's going to leave behind will probably eventually outweigh that.
Yeah, I think she has star power, right? That's the thing that kind of you overlook. You do have your Ric Flairs and your John Cena's, but you have your Stone Cold Steve Austins. Didn't necessarily get the most accomplishments, but by far the most over superstar in the WWE. And I think Rhea's right there in the women's in that category, kind of like a Trish. You can put there kind of in their own little Mount Rushmore of just
Hmm.
superstardom. Rhea's that. So I agree 100% with this pick. I love it.
Who you got at
So
five?
I had to go superstar too, but a different kind of one of the most over guys on social media. And I think that character, this transfers over as we've seen with Travis Scott and some different acts. I got to go Logan Paul here. Only 30 years young. Guy's already showing just with limited wrestling what he's able to do. And now we get him in a feud with Jey Uso. Yeet. Gotta love that. Right off the bat. Has it been, who is it? Logan Paul's had feuds with Roman Reigns as a
Hmm.
champion and now Jey Uso. It's only a matter of time before he's WWE champion.
Yeah, and unfortunately, his U.S. title reign didn't really do a lot for him. But I mean, in ring, it's really hard to argue with Logan Paul's ability. I mean, you saw the match at Mania with AJ Styles. Obviously, he's had several more high profile matches. In fact, hell, it feels like every time he steps in the ring, honestly, it's a high profile match for Logan Paul. My
Right.
only drawback to Logan is, are people going to buy him enough as a credible threat over time? And that's not a knock on his ability. That's a knock on, fans having to adapt that he is a quote unquote outsider. You know what I mean? He hasn't been in WWE forever. He's got his stardom from YouTube and from streaming and all of these other different avenues, right? But you can't deny the impact that he's got on
Yeah.
WWE in terms of he's got the Prime station, like
Yeah.
every single PLE.
Ever.
He's got these huge entrances. He's got these huge matches. The only place that I want to see Logan grow if he's going to continue to stick around WWE is his promos.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could agree with that. I think he's kind of a work in progress, but he's one of those, like we say in football, dynasty assets.
Yep.
He
Yep. Yep.
doesn't necessarily have to start for you in the main event right away, but he's a great role player for the time being, and there's a lot of upside. So I love it. Who do you have here at 6?
Yeah. And man, with Paul, the thing about him is he is somebody that you just continually want to punch in the face. So you have you have your top heel just like out of the gate there,
Oh,
on the back of Gunther even. So
yeah.
my next pick though is Seth Rollins. I couldn't chance it any further, man. I couldn't chance it any further. Honestly, I thought you were gonna go there before Gunther just to gut punch me for a for a fun little for a fun little show moment.
Right.
And man, I just couldn't leave him off any longer. Honestly, present day, I'd consider him the 101. I would take him above everybody else, but I was trying to play the game in terms of age and stardom and divisions and all that sort of thing. But we've been saying it for weeks. We feel like he was the MVP of WrestleMania. I feel like he's been the MVP, maybe even of WWE, arguably, for the last year, 2, 3.
Sure.
And it's crazy to watch Seth Rollins right now because everything that he did at Mania says he should be a top heel. And yet he is that song. The crowd is still singing it. Everybody's cheering what he's doing. He stomped Sami Zayn at the end of Raw. People just cheered it, man.
Yeah.
So actions and everything says he's heel, but the crowd, he just can't be hated right now. And that's, I think that says quite a bit.
Dude, he's just, I keep going back to it. Those Macho Man vibes with the swagger, dude, the outfits, the shades, just everything about him. I love Seth Rollins. We both do. We love, and he's grown on me so much because this was not the case, I'd say, before the WrestleMania with Cody Rhodes. Like that, the Joker vibe, that all kind of, when he really started like discovering his personality, it changed the game. And now with his, his swagger all day and how much he cares about the company. You can tell he bleeds his company, and that's what I love about it.
I think we're just now tapping into what's going to be the next evolution with him, Breaker, and Paul Heyman, because during the attack on Monday Night Raw, Breaker is just out there tearing Sammy an absolute new one, and they're going into chaos, and it's all happening right by Seth. By one of the announce tables. I can't remember. Yeah, I guess it's just the one main announce table out there for Raw. But, chaos just ensuing right beside him. And he's literally stone-faced, just looking straight ahead. He's not even watching Breaker. He's not even watching Sammy. He's just stone-faced, in control, straight ahead. And I think this next evolution of Seth Rollins is going to be one for the ages.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. This guy's been in the company for 10 plus years. And he's, to me, he's just getting better and better and better.
Yeah.
It's crazy. From a guy who came from Iowa, some backroads country, state where there's not a lot going on, and now he's got a wrestling school. There's just a lot of upside and a lot to like about Seth Rollins. So I had to go with who I think is going to carry on the feud of the year when it does come. That's your tribal chief. That's Roman freaking Reigns, 39 years old, which is crazy because I thought he was older. I think the biggest thing with him is just how long is he going to stick around in the WWE? That's the biggest thing. We've heard a couple years. We've seen him in the last 2 years just make sporadic appearances. That's the only thing I'm worried about. But this guy is a main draw, and there's a lot of story. It doesn't matter who he's in story with. We're all into it.
I mean, his impact, regardless of how much longer he's got left, is going to be undeniable now. I know he was in, I think it was right around WrestleMania or maybe right after WrestleMania, one of the two. He was in that Vanity Fair spread. So a lot of people are getting eyes on Roman Reigns, and he is in the same boat as Cody in terms of he is definitely planning for life after wrestling, which is obviously
Right.
very, very smart with all the opportunities that WWE is giving talent these days. And he, that's something else he, made alluded to. Was, hey, I've got 1, 2, maybe 3 years left in this game, and then he's taking on a much less physical role. But what does that mean? Is it just at that point? Is it just WrestleMania, a la The Undertaker for a bit? Is he going into producing? Is he leaving for movies? It's hard to say. So, but I, what he's doing and the run that he's been on is absolutely undeniable right now. And how can you not take him?
Dude, and the shape he came into WrestleMania, chiseled out a rock, dude. That's got to be at least what we've seen wrestling bodies. That's got to be one of the 101, at least in the top 5 wrestling bodies as far as being in shape and being a main event draw. He's up there. But yeah, I love this pick. I think it fits perfect with Seth Rollins. If maybe I reached a little bit for Logan Paul there at 5, I think getting Roman Reigns at 7 was a smash.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm keeping it in the bloodline for my next pick, and I'm taking our current United States champion, Jacob Fatu, who is 33 years old. So I get a break in terms of the age here with my particular roster that I got going. And he's in the Braun Breaker boat for me in terms of we are really just scratching the surface with Jacob Fatu. Literally, since he debuted on the scene, he has just been so over and so hot. And everything that he does in the ring is just like there is a level of intensity with Jacob Fatu that you just could not match with another superstar right now. And there's no way that this guy isn't world champion in the future.
Dude, just the mid card, we say it over and over again, the mid card is almost the main event. We can all
Right.
see it. We can see, we can see Dirty Dom, we can see Paul, we can see these guys, Breaker, Fatu. Jesus Christ, how good. Give WWE 2 years from now, and you're still going to have all these main event guys wrestling, but these guys are going to be the ones that you're going to get putting on clinics week in and week out, and they've crafted their game. Imagine Jacob Fatu in 2 years, how much better he's going to be on the WWE level. That's scary, dude.
I mean, that's actually a great conversation and one that, we can talk about kind of towards the end of the show just in doing this exercise and doing this draft. And I went through and looked up every single person that we're going to talk about tonight. We've got their age attached to them just because it's a topic of
Yeah.
conversation when you're doing a startup like this. And so with that, I mean, Jacob has easily 10 years left or so, at the rate that they're going. But we're at this precipice where there is this talent that's going to start maybe exiting. And when that happens, man, Jacob Fatu, I mean, top of the mountain, my dude, top of the mountain.
I think he has everything that we've taken from all this like Samoan heritage that you've had, the Umagas, the Yokozunas, the in-ring work is there. And then he's getting the promos. He already has that feel and the swagger. Everything's kind of lining up. And like you said, only 33. Like you said, 10 years of Jacob Fatu. I mean, that's like where we were with Seth Rollins 10 years ago. But Jacob Fatu, in my opinion, is farther along than Seth Rollins was 10 years ago. So
in terms of how long they've spent on WWE TV, absolutely.
Yes. So it's just, dude, it's going to be scary to see this guy kind of grow and become a superstar, which he already is.
I mean, just his last entrance and promo, with the backwards Raiders jersey and then cutting off Solo, and then the way that he held his own in there with McIntyre and LA Knight, he's light years ahead. So 100% agree with you there.
He's a man. And now we're going to talk about somebody who we've kind of, I think's really elevated her stock in the last year. Somebody who wasn't really on my radar a couple of years ago. She was kind of in that mid card. I wouldn't call it lull in the women's wrestling, but she was overshadowed by bigger names. And now she's kind of, I don't know if it's the Judgment Day that's done it, but she's kind of found her way. And that's Liv Morgan, pick 9 here. I think she's a cornerstone of the WWE. She's kind of got that mean girl vibe to her, and it works. And I think she's another one. She's young. She's going to have what she's able to do in segments. Not necessarily, you don't have to just do it in the ring. Just throughout a Monday Night Raw. Sticks out a lot. So I think this is another one. Easy pick, kind of like Fatu. I'm looking forward to the future. And that's what she has.
Yeah. I mean, she's on TV every single week, at least once, if not twice, sometimes 3 times. I mean, the Judgment Day is still hanging around, and Liv Morgan is obviously a very, very big part of it. And now, Maddie, they are playing up the storyline, which is set to play out here in the next couple of weeks, that she is going to be taken off and filming some sort of movie. So that's, I mean, apparently whatever movie this is, there's rumors out there that it's actually going to be, it's not just going to be like this small side movie that we've kind of seen some WWE superstars take in the past. This is apparently a pretty prominent film. So I'm interested to see what gets released there. Also very interested to see how long Liv Morgan is going to be out, and what that does to Dom, what it does to Raquel, because I think if somebody else was missing from, Liv and Dom are kind of the two, right? But if somebody else is missing, the group probably carries on, and star power and everything attached to it kind of just keeps on rolling. But without Liv Morgan, man, that's such a big hole in the WWE roster that's about to take place, especially, specifically for the women's talent.
Yeah, she's, especially in Judgment Day. I mean, but that's what we've kind of need. You need the women's division to step up. No offense to the mid carders, but they've got to elevate themselves. What you've kind of said about who's coming up, I think she's kind of a show of that. But yeah, Liv Morgan's the total package. One question before we keep going:
Yep.
do they still do WWE films like the
I
Marine
hope not.
Five or See No Evil the Third? Like, come on, man, what are you doing?
No,
Like, why
no,
you gotta
I
go
yeah, go ahead.
C-rate videos? Like,
Yeah.
it kind of had something like the first Marine and what was it? The Stone Cold movie was okay, and then it just
Oh,
got
yeah.
real cliff fall real fast.
Yeah, I read a quote from CM Punk earlier today that that he has some standing things in his WWE contract that if he wants to, take time off and have leeway for a movie or a TV show, I think that he's got that written into his deal. And he was talking to apparently Netflix about continuing on. Oh man, I can't remember what the wrestling show is. There's some wrestling show that's on Netflix that he's trying to get into another season. So he would go off and do that sort of thing. So I think with that Netflix branding and backing,
Dude, I
and
didn't
the agency that I think Liv is signed with the same agency that Punk is signed with. It's called Paradigm.
yeah.
There's a bunch of wrestlers that are signed to that now, and I think you're going to see more opportunities like the one that Liv Morgan is getting instead of just the WWE studio things.
I think that's genius too by Netflix
Oh
and by
yeah,
WWE. You get more
absolutely.
man, I mean, dude, how many ways is this Netflix deal just gonna over time just elevate WWE? It's crazy.
Oh, I think it's the smartest thing they've done business wise, and I mean, you can argue Fox, but Netflix is just on a completely different tier in terms of global branding and global
Yeah.
eyes, on the product. And speaking of global, I am going to Chile for my next pick, Maddie. I'm going with Stephanie Vakir, the NXT Women's Champion. We've seen her on Monday Night Raw for the last couple of weeks as well. Now, Stephanie is currently 32 years old, and you and I were like, hey, man, let's get her on the main roster stat.
Yeah.
Let's go with these feuds. And you talk about the star power of Liv Morgan being gone for a little while. You're going to need some folks to step up. We've got the WWE draft coming up, the actual WWE draft coming up in not too long. And so I think she is prime. There are several women's talent actually right now on NXT. And if you look at the main roster talent, you start saying there could be some replaceable talent. Not and maybe not replaceable, but just talent that maybe is going to start taking a back seat to the likes of Stephanie Vakir. And man, you just see the matches that she's already putting on, whether it be with Io Sky or Ivy Nile or whoever it is. She's got the look, she's got the moves, she's got the presence in the ring. She actually did a sit down with Bubba Ray Dudley on his show Busted Open After Dark and said that she actually she had the option. She chose to go to NXT first so that she could learn the WWE style, so that she could work on her English, so that she could work on her promos. And I think somebody that's willing to do that, it just tells you the level of dedication and what this opportunity means. And I think it's, sky's the limit for her.
Absolutely. And I haven't gotten to see a lot of her, but after the
Hmm.
last couple weeks, I've kind of dived in a little bit. And she does bring this like hard hitting style where she's laying it in thick, which I think is something, unless you're Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania, you don't necessarily see all the time. I can't get over that. But yeah, dude. And Stephanie, she's kind of a throwback to the old school wrestling, like, the 80s. You're gonna lay it in. And I think she's, whether it's her body, whether it's her dominance on NXT, North American champ, NXT champ at the same time, there's a lot of upside in her. And with those other women that should be doing a lot better, kind of floundering, I think, like you said, this is going to be one that kicks the door down on the WWE roster.
Yeah, there is no we keep picking on her, but there's not going to be like a Lyra Valkyria flat line to Stephanie once she gets on the main roster. Now, I will grant you the Becky Lynch angle of this Lyra Valkyria thing. It's about the most I've cared about Lyra so far. So I do think this feud is helping that character out a little bit, but it was still just very like I don't know. It still needed something there to put it over the edge. So we'll see where that feud goes. But I'm very, very excited about the future of Stephanie. Who you got on the back end of your draft here?
Another one, upsides there. It's looking good. We've gotten praises from Cena, from other guys. It's Dirty Dom, man. We've kind of been the same way. We see everybody sees it. They see the upside. They see the talent, the lineage with his dad, Eddie or Ray or whoever you want to say. This guy's money in the bank, man, and he's only just cusping what's gonna happen. I just think whether it's a promo on Chris Van Fleet, giving an interview, guy stays in character, and just kind of that WWE throwback you don't necessarily see as a heel. Now he's getting over as a face. I love this guy. So do you.
He just turned 28 at the beginning of April. And with the way that he wrestles, Maddie, I really think that he could. I mean, you see the longevity of Ray, but Dom has talked openly. He's like, I'm not wrestling as long as my dad. Like, that's just that's just not happening. But, he's attached to Liv Morgan. He's attached to all of these huge WrestleMania storylines. He's on TV, a la like Liv, right? Multiple times a week. He's now an Intercontinental Champion, and he got the win over Penta here recently on WWE television. And to your point, he's kind of the latest of the heels, and I think it just speaks volumes to Dom. There was a point where you just could not hear him when he spoke on the microphone. People hated him that much and just booed him that much. Now he's being openly cheered. So the ride that we are about to take with Dom, especially with Liv potentially leaving WWE television, I think it's about to get wild for Dom.
Well, and that's the thing that's crazy is Dom's like already doing what he's doing, and you say he's 28.
28.
Dude's a baby still, and you could literally give him a couple years, and just because he is so young, you could let him kind of just simmer there, marinate in the crock pot for a couple more years. But dude, 2 years from now, like we were saying with Braun Breaker, with these other guys, Fatu, right there with them, dude. Like, this guy might be the most over face in the company 2 years from now.
So with that, can you see Dom as world champ?
Oh, I think so. I think he's got that underdog vibe to him. That could easily, what we're seeing with Jey Uso. Picture that same kind of vibe with Dom going up against Gunther, or going up against, just kind of going into the Royal Rumble, pick one 2 years from now.
Oh my God.
And going the distance from what he's came from to now. From a guy that I literally didn't think was anything when I saw him in that WrestleMania with Rey Mysterio, I can't remember. I thought this guy was like, he's not even on this level now. Crazy.
Yeah, face Dom when he came in with Rey Mysterio, and they were just tagging to the Dom that we see in front of us. There's nobody in WWE whose stock has changed more, who's put more into their character, who has made a better decision to go the way that they have went, in my opinion, than Dirty Dom. So first pick on the back end of my draft, I am going on the older side of things, but Maddie, I needed some star power, and you and I have been singing the praises of Drew McIntyre for quite some time now. He has had incredible feuds, be it Seth Rollins, be it Drew McIntyre, or with himself, right? But with CM Punk, and man, everything just feels like it just is so personal to Drew. All of the promos that he cuts are very thoughtful. He still has the witty, funny banter moments. I mean, he pulled out the cell phone again at WrestleMania and took the picture, with Damian Priest outside of the ring at WrestleMania. Drew is, man, it's so crazy that when you sit here and list the top talent and who is main eventing, and then you get to Drew and you're like, Drew should be there as well.
Yeah, there's so much more you could do with Drew McIntyre. We saw him, I'd say, have the feud of the year, in my opinion, with CM Punk. I think that spoke volumes for him, and we haven't really even dove into his character. There's he brings realism to WWE that you don't get with a lot of other guys.
Agreed.
We've seen the funny haha stuff, but the way he could really be I think the number one heel in WWE. If you let him just, produce violence to a
Yep.
point that he could, he's big enough, intimidating enough, and just kind of psychopathic. I think this guy, another one, he's been around forever and he's still got so much meat on the bone, in my opinion.
I think you hit the nail on the head in what I was looking for to explain what Drew McIntyre brings, and that is the realism. Because there's
Right.
times where you'll watch Drew cut a promo and you'll be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
this is getting this is getting a little tense. Like this feels like this is actually what Drew McIntyre is thinking and feeling right now." And I think that's more times than not, honestly, when he's on WWE TV. So I love that point about Drew.
Yeah. I think this makes me, we do this kind of, we step back and we look at these guys. And
Mhm.
I'm getting more excited. Like, obviously, we got the Cody Rhodes and the Gunthers, but I get more excited thinking about Jacob Fatu, Braun Breaker, Dom Mysterio, and even like if a Drew McIntyre was used properly, or how I like my Drew McIntyre. Anyways, there's just so there's so much more to come as a wrestling fan that I'm hyped about.
Yeah. Your next pick goes in the complete opposite direction.
Yeah, I was kind of reach here. It's tough to say you're reaching because she is WWE champ. So that means WWE's invested in her. She does have the look. Promos are okay. I think everything's kind of a work in progress with her. I'm talking about Tiffy time. I think there's a lot that goes into her presentation, her mannerisms, things like that. You're going to have a lot of girls that are going to look up to her in the future and want to be a WWE wrestler because they can look like her or act like her, that you can be pretty and be a Barbie and be a WWE,
Mm.
athlete still. So I think there is a market for her moving forward. I just think she's still, I don't it's tough. I don't think she needs to be where she's at necessarily. I think that's still very raw. But you said, what is she, 25, 26?
25. Yeah, 25.
So
She's going
she's
to be 26 in May, on May 1st. So by the time this comes out via Spotify, all the things at WrestleMats, yeah, she'll be 26.
yeah, just got off her parents' like health insurance. I mean, you can't be too hard on this girl because she does have
No.
the she's already, yeah. I mean, it's upside here, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, from when I listened to her, I remember an interview with her probably 3 years ago or so now when she was still in NXT, and they were asking her what she liked about the business, and she's like, "I like being on TV." I mean, it was just as matter of fact about that.
Yeah, I mean,
And so it's just like, okay, maybe it's not what everybody would consider the greatest answer, but that's what she likes. And apparently that's what she's relatively good at. It's gotten her to the mountaintop and it's gotten her to a WrestleMania match with arguably the greatest women's wrestler of all time in Charlotte Flair. And so, to your point, I do think there are some things in the ring in terms of just her timing and the next step in the story and that sort of thing. And then I think you and I both have questions about, was it necessarily the right time to turn Tiffany Stratton into a face, because it just feels slightly less natural than it was when
right.
she was a heel. And so, but there's time to get there, dude.
Yeah,
She's 25, almost 26. There's plenty of time to get there, and I have confidence that she's going to be a okay.
yeah. And I think when she was with Nia Jax, like,
Hmm.
I think that was perfect. Just kind
Agreed.
of, I think they just needed that star, the star power to put the belt on her, which I get. But I think you can always go back to the drawing board with somebody like this. She has the look. She will get there with the move set, with the, like you said, the timing.
Hmm.
Lot of upside with that one. Who you got at 14?
I am going to counter your luchador and Dom Mysterio with one of my own. He is a smooth operator. He is Penta. And ever since he has set foot onto the WWE scene, he has been over like Rover, my friend. I mean, Penta, Penta is one of the best um, one of the best, like, just examples overall of, is his English perfect? No. It doesn't need to be, though. You can just feel the intensity and the passion and what he means and what you get from, him just, man, those eyes right into the camera every time he talks, or when he makes that entrance, or when he gets hyped from hitting a move from the top rope or something like that. Everything about this dude, if you told me I get the next 4 or 5 years of the Penta experience, that's fine. I am plenty okay with having him in my top 10.
Dude, and we've had him since January, and
That's insane.
he's been
Insane.
so, like, easily one of everybody's favorites in the WWE, and we've only gotten, we see him every couple weeks, but golly, there's so much more. There's so many feuds we haven't even touched on with Penta.
Crazy.
So it's going to be fun just to see him and see his brother Ray, and just kind of how they use them as a tandem, how long they
Mhm.
keep them away, and what Penta is. I think he's got the drawing power for sure. I think
Does he
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, do you think he, as I spit all over my camera and everywhere else just now for some reason, does he have the best entrance right now in WWE?
Yeah, I mean, it's
I
if there's one I'm not thinking about, but yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the pyro, the Sierra Miedo, I mean, all of it.
And the
It just
mask,
the
dude, the
walk.
mask is sick.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, this guy's gonna sell merchandise out the ass. On top of that, yeah, I mean, you got the
Yeah.
best entrance, one of the most, like, devastating, like, move sets for a luchador, and
Yeah.
then on top of that, you buy a double or triple A, and
Mhm.
he's got, I think he
Oh,
might
yeah. That's a great
already,
point.
yeah, I mean, is this guy, I mean, I guess you could say Dom, but one of the probably the second most. I should go back and look and see how over this guy is, like, outside of WWE, like, to the
Oh,
Mexican
like
audience.
worldwide. Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I imagine to the greater audience, to all the eyes that or excuse me, that Netflix has brought to
Oh my
WWE.
god.
Yeah, no, I think it's, oh man, him or I think it's got to be Penta in my
He
head
might
anyway. I don't
he
know.
might be one of the top, like, 3 merchandise sellers just out over those masks, like,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
alright, let's go to a world champ now. This one's interesting because he's kinda had the rocket strapped to him lately. We're talking about main event Jey Uso, now champ, now feuding with Logan Paul, which I like. I think that's a good, transition from Gunther. You kinda get this heater and Paul, and the one thing Jey Uso brings to the WWE, other than his entrance, his merchandise sales, is his emotion.
Yep.
You connect with him. You connect with his promos. You connect with his facial features, and that's something you can't necessarily teach. And I think that's where, whether you want to shit on his move set, I know we don't necessarily get the hate, but there's no undenying, what his entrance and his heart. And I think that's what they brand. I mean, right there, the eat and just how much he's invested.
Oh, you heard it directly from Triple H, in fact, leading into WrestleMania and giving these interviews in multiple places. He's like, "Look, Jay is not gonna be the most technical wrestler out there, but there's been several guys come through the business that are not the most technical in the ring, but huge names, huge draws, huge impacts on the business." And here we've got Jay Uso later on in his career, after being a part of one of the most decorated, one of the greatest tag teams of all time. And now he finds himself at the top of the mountain with, as champion, connecting with the fans like probably almost no one else across WWE. And I just, yeah, man, how do you not invest in this guy and see where it goes from here? Jay has been champion for less than a month now. I mean, this thing could, I think, given the time and the opportunity, does Jay need to hold it until next WrestleMania? No, I don't think so. But I think he could still have an impactful world title reign.
When I think sometimes it's not necessarily about the length, it's about making a guy. We saw this with Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit. When a guy is so close to the mountaintop for, Jey Uso's was in the WWE winning tag titles for 10 years, something like that.
Hmm.
So to finally let a guy, somebody who just I mean, the crowd gets behind people that are invested, that know that they clawed their way to the top. And I think that's what you got with Jey Uso, with whether it was getting endorsed by Roman Reigns or John Cena. This guy paid his dues, and now, yeah, whether it's a long title run or not, I think it's put him at the main event scene, and that's all that matters.
One question before we get away from Jey Uso: what do you think the difference is in terms of connection to the audience between him and Big Jim? Like, why is Jimmy not quite there? Now, like when they're together, people like him a lot when they're together, but when Jimmy's on his own, like he's still getting good reaction, but it's just not quite getting this. Like it's not naturally taking that same path as Jey Uso.
I'll be honest, like what got me with Jay was the Roman Reigns storyline a couple years
Oh,
ago,
absolutely, yeah.
where it was just like almost like Roman was picking on him, and he had that, he was it. I think it was the mind control of just
Mm,
the stuff people doubt, just the doubt, self doubt, whether it was self doubt or other people doubting him. I think that helped kind of mold this character. With Jim, I don't know if you've necessarily seen it get to that level of emotional, like, what
uh-huh.
it should be. I think he's been kind of, I wouldn't say the trickster, the funny guy. You just hasn't seen him be fully like on a, emotionally invested. You don't feel the emotional ride with Big Jim, I don't think.
Yeah, yeah. No, I can see that. That's fair. It'll be interesting to see with Jay as champ and everything else that's going on, if Jimmy can kind of get a little bit of that rub and get his stock, kind of going in the same direction. That's going to be interesting to watch for as long as Jay's champion. Really, I think. Uh, my next pick, Maddie. Unfortunately, she has been impeached. She is no longer our longest reigning. She is still the first ever, I suppose. And well, I guess technically she is still the longest reigning, but she is no longer the women's U.S. champion. Chelsea Green, what a freaking story, man! She's been let go of from WWE multiple times. She comes back. She takes this opportunity every single week that she is on the TV, excuse me, on WWE television. She is the one of the highlights of the night, and she doesn't have to win. She can win you over by her antics, by her facial expressions. She's not having some crazy 5-star match, although she had a crazy match with Penta back in the day. Yes, you heard that right, with Penta back in the day. But Chelsea Green, an incredible run, an incredible ambassador for WWE. And I think at some point, Maddie, if they let her go, and I don't know when that's gonna, and I don't mean from the company. I mean if they let her go in the ring and really like just let it rip and see what she's got, and they depart from kind of this funny character, kind of like Jimmy Uso, right? Like he's
Yeah.
kind of this funny business sort of character in some ways. But if they really let her go and build her with some credibility, I think Chelsea could do wonders. And I still think, I heard her say that the end goal for her isn't necessarily being a WWE Women's Champion, but I think she can get there. I really, truly do if they just let it rip.
Yeah, I think that's slighting herself. She's definitely, you're invested every time she's on the screen. Like she takes over. Like she has star power. And whether it's what she's doing on TV, on social media, the interviews, all of it, she's takes over, which you need. You need somebody, even if you're not going to be on that main event scene, you have to get
Hmm.
noticed. And she does that. Whether you can say she's obnoxious, annoying, it works. And like you said, all it takes is a switch being flipped to
Hmm.
change that trajectory, whether she's being more serious, whether she's, being just a mean heel. There's so many different layers you can do, but she is over. So I think that's half the fight. She's gotten herself over. So now what does she do with it? But I think, like you said, she's up there in that mid card, and I think she's better than the mid card, what they have now. So I think it's only a matter of how does this play out for her?
Yeah.
How
I
do they
mean,
book her? That's the big thing.
yeah, I mean, here I am picking someone in my top 10 that I would start on a blank WWE roster that
Yeah.
did not make this past WrestleMania card. Obviously, I would argue the biggest snub of the card, but man,
When
I
then
just
you, I
yeah,
was
go
going to
ahead.
say, just taking over this week.
Hmm.
Just okay. So she lost the title.
Right.
Selena Vega won, right?
Hmm.
More people aren't talking about Selena Vega. They're talking about Chelsea losing the title in the promo. They're not
Yeah.
mentioning Zelina at all. So that tells you just, it wasn't like, oh my God, did you see Zelina Vega won the title? It's you saw Chelsea Green
Chelsea
lose
Green
the
with
title.
it. Yeah,
Huge.
that's a great point. All right, who you got up next?
Got to twirl the hair a little bit. This one's a fun one. This one's another one that she's already one of the greats, and there's more. We haven't seen her heel turn, so I'm excited to see that. I think this is another one. Her and Rhea. You could even bring in Chelsea and Tiffy and all these other girls. Steph. I mean, there's a lot of talent in the women's division, and I think that's
For
what you.
those not watching YouTube, Facebook, all the things, Bianca
Right.
Belair.
Yeah, Bianca Belair. They helped. Anyways, my pick 17 here. I think she's a main eventer. I think she's
Yeah.
on the cusp. If she's not at the top, she's number 2. So to me, this was an easy pick. Just depends on another one. They're just the storyline's just not there for her. But I have a feeling with the Jade Cargill, knowing Naomi, and becoming a heel at some point in her career,
Mm.
there's going to be a lot of upside in the next couple of years with her.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting to see what Bianca does and how much longer she has left in the ring, because with the physical conditioning that Bianca's in, it feels like she could just go with this thing forever. But she has been outspoken about the potential of wanting kids at some point, and obviously that makes just a bigger difference in maybe how much longer she's around, or the possibility of a heel run with Bianca at some point. But man, I am right there with you in terms of, I mean, we talked about it leading up to all the way up to WrestleMania, basically from the time that we saw Jade Cargill come back and Elimination Chamber. We're like, oh, maybe we're finally getting this Bianca Hill turn, and that hasn't happened just yet. But man, it's an incredible testament that how far this EST character has taken her and how over that she still is with all the fans. But she is one that, man, whether it's Zelina Vega or Rhea Ripley or Chelsea Green or whoever, she is going to sell her ass off and make that other talent look incredible, which I think is why you don't hear a lot of people ever saying that Bianca has a bad match. And that's invaluable, that knowing you can trust someone with literally anyone in the ring and they're going to put on a great show.
Absolutely. Like I said, I think we're still, whether she's only got a couple of years, I think there's still just the momentum's on her side already. It's just how they're going to book her moving forward. But for her to win Elimination Chamber, to have enough, to make it a triple threat and put her in the main event, I think that, we got what we got with Bianca, and I think it's there, star power. Let's go to 18.
Yeah, I'm gonna take her hubby. I'm gonna take Montez Ford and then Angelo Dawkins. I'm gonna take the Street Profits as the first tag team off the board in this draft. And the Street Profits, when they came up from NXT, wildly popular, wildly over as faces. Now we've got this new, more intense, more focused version of the Street Profits. And I think it served them pretty well. I remember when this first happened and they kind of had that moment where was it Royal Rumble or Elimination Chamber where they interfered with the Motor City match? I think it was Royal Rumble, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it's been so long now, but this version of the Street Profits was probably overdue, and I think they were kind of getting lost in the shuffle, even when they got paired up with Bobby Lashley a while back, and then Bobby Lashley, leaves WWE, and so they're just kind of floundering, and you're like, man, these two guys that have just had so much success and have worked so well as a tag team and put on all of these great matches, how can you not have something more, something bigger for them? I think we're finally seeing that. Montez Ford, in my opinion, the dude needs a singles run. I don't know necessarily what it would mean for Dawkins. I think he could do something. I think Dawkins would maybe get stuck in that mid-card territory. I don't mean anything bad by it. I just mean as a tag team, as a tandem, they're up there. They're an incredible tag team. That's why I'm taking them right now with this pick. But Montez Ford, man, it just feels like this cat has all the tools, all the athleticism, all the promo, all the hype. and I'd love to personally see what he could do on a singles run.
Yeah, I mean, dude, did you see him versus the Machine Guns and just the wearing the Heartbreak Kid gear, using
Yeah,
the person's leg, reminiscent of
yeah.
a '96 HBK Diesel, just everything about it. Tag teams is one of the most, like, I wouldn't say it's questionable. It's tough for me because tag teams are. I want the tag team to get over. They're so good, and I know how good he is. But them as a, like, dominant tag team, it sucks because you need tag team wrestling, but
Agreed.
it's like you're capped. It's like it's no matter what. You look at the Usos, New Day, it's like you can only get over to a point, and then
Hmm.
there's not enough tag teams that are built up enough. They don't put, two singles guys against the Street Profits and let the Profits win that.
Right.
So I think that's almost like a problem with tag team wrestling. Is you don't
It,
you're
yeah.
just
Is it?
more
Is it?
stuck to the mid card or the opener, which it shouldn't be because it is such a big deal. But how much more fun would it be if you got the Street Profits versus Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker,
Yeah. No. That's
and you're
that's
like,
that's an
holy shit,
absolute.
this is,
Yeah.
or any
Yeah.
any
Then it
main
gets
eventer like
serious.
Jay Uso and Cody Rhodes, and then the Profits win. Like that, just they're that good of a tag team, and I think that's you have to legitimize the tag division more. That obviously, everybody wants to go for the main title, but make the tag titles like a big freaking deal. Like it's a unique style of wrestling. The hot tag. There's so tag team maneuvers. There's so much to do, and these are the guys that you could really either make both stars or just make them dominant because they are completely different wrestlers.
Well, quite literally, to your point, that's exactly what they did with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn when they
Right.
when they main evented WrestleMania. You had them against the best tag team. Now, grant you had them in the Bloodline feud or in the
Right.
Bloodline like story. So I'm not just ignoring that. But this has been something that's been proven multiple times down the road with WWE. If I'm not the biggest fan of them putting two singles guys together, but when you do it with the purpose and the intent to elevate that tag team and then make that mean something more,
Right.
that's absolutely what they should be doing. And then, if you did something like that and you had Montez Ford in the ring with the likes of a Cody Rhodes or someone like that, or a Roman Reigns, or who a Braun Breaker, Seth Rollins,
Yeah.
that only puts more eyes on Montez Ford and Dawkins, obviously,
Right.
but it's going to get people talking about them more. It's not going to be this lost match that was in the middle of SmackDown. You know what I mean? So I
Exactly.
agree that that's where the tag team division is faltering and could use help, and that's why, you know, I kind of, when I got to this point, I'm like, well, I do need a tag team,
Yeah. Oh
and I
yeah.
do. I do feel like the Profits are the best tag team right now, but it is just a tough spot and a tough division to be in. And you even see it with the Usos, right? Like, look how long it took them to get a singles run. It took them forever. And the Profits, they could be bound for that same situation.
Yeah. It's tough with tag teams. You went 18. You went Street Profits. I felt the pressure. I was like, okay, he's going to tag team here. I gotta go to tag team. I'm out of picks. I want the New Day because New Day sucks or they rock, but they're the New Day, and you can't hate on that. I do think the heel run is what they needed. I don't know. I don't think either of these guys you can put back in the main event area. I just think Xavier Woods is kind of painted with that brush now that he's just a tag team guy.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of one of those you can't hate on them. I think they do have where you can build these guys up. Kind of same with Street Profits. Think you could still do something like that. I just think the tag division needs needs to be pushed up a little bit, put on a platform. Be main eventing Raw versus, like we said, Jacob Fatu and Penta or something. Some guys that got beef. They used to do that all the time. Remember? It'd be like, okay, LA
Yeah.
Knight, Fatu, you don't like each other? Well, you're in a tag team
Yeah.
match
Tag team. Yep.
against
Yep. Yep.
the Street Profits. And oh my God. And then, every once in a while they hate each other and they win the titles. But if not, like you said, it shines everybody. So New Day, one of the greatest tag teams of all time. We
Oh,
won't go into
absolutely.
too much detail. It's just one of those. I think you got to pick them here.
Well, I do think it's a shame though that the Big E had his moment, that Kofi had his moment, and for some reason or another, Xavier Woods didn't get his moment necessarily. Not even with the Intercontinental title, not even with the U.S. title. I think he won King of the Ring a few years ago, and that was fun. But I think Woods, when he's in ring, he sells very well. I think he's got a good high pace energy. I think his stuff is well thought out. The gear
Right.
is good. The entrance is good. He even cuts a good promo, I would argue. I would argue he's kind of better than average on the
Yeah.
mic.
Oh, yeah.
And you just haven't necessarily seen it as much in a one. I mean, when him and Kofi were fighting, right, and it looked like New Day was going to break up, I mean, those were some intense promos, and everybody was hooked to hear what they were going to say every single week. And then you now have this heel tandem with them, which is great, but you kind of find yourself back in the same place. You know what I mean? As before, you didn't really get that full singles. What can Woods do on his own moment?
Yeah. I agree completely. Tag divisions just got lost in the shuffle, and
Yeah,
that's it. You see Judgment Day on your TV 4 times a day. You could do
yeah,
something with the tag guys, get them over. Like Chelsea Green gets over, like
right.
these other single stars. So I think we're on to something. Maybe it's the evolution of tag team wrestling. We'll see.
Well, Maddie, for my last pick, I find myself back in NXT one more time, and I can't overlook the NXT champion right now, Obafemi. I mean, my goodness, this guy just looks like a destroyer every time he is in the ring. We've seen the crossover into TNA and how much people pop for that with him and Moose. Obafemi just has so much untapped potential. He is 27 years old right now, and he is putting NXT on his back in a lot of ways. And in terms of just like size and presence, you can see a path for him to be that next big man. Rusev almost feels too light, but just like that person that comes in, you're like, holy shit, look at this dude.
Yeah, 6'6", 300 pounds. This guy's got an intimidating presence. It's just, how do you book this guy when he comes in? You don't book him like the WWE books big guys sometimes.
Yeah.
This guy needs to be a dominator. He needs to come in and show WWE what's up. And they did a great job with Breaker with that. I hope they do the same with Femi.
Yeah, he has way more to offer than an Omos. Kind of
No.
to your point, you don't want to book him like an Omos. Not, at some point it felt like they were maybe going to go special attraction route with Omos, and I can't tell you the last time that he's been on WWE television, honestly. So, Femi brings way more to the table, way more untapped potential, and hopefully he is going to be somebody that's, in line to be on Monday or Friday nights before long. Maddie, if you had one more pick before we break down some stats here, if you had one more pick and you could go in any direction, who's your honorable mention here that didn't quite make the cut?
The one that I really wanted to add, just because I feel like it's like a renaissance almost, was CM Punk. Like, I've
Yeah.
really enjoyed him on the mic. He's on TV a lot. You're getting kind of that star power every week. Whether it's his entrance, his mic work, tearing up the Rock, post Rumble. There's so much. I think CM Punk's been a really great addition to the WWE roster since he came back at Survivor Series a couple years ago.
Yep.
But yeah, even when he was on the mic and out with an injury, like, there's just so much there.
Yeah, I had a tough time as well because I was trying to consider everything for the draft, including health, and so that's kind of one of the reasons why I didn't end up going Bronson Reed. But I think Bronson Reed
Oh
has a
man,
lot to offer
yeah,
when I know he's kind of slipped the mind, right?
yeah.
But the pick that I truly almost made is, I think she is finally on Raw now. She had the little patch on her boot that goes onto the Topps card that says, WWE Raw debut or whatever it is, but is Roxanne Perez, the Prodigy. I mean,
Yeah.
it would have obviously brought down the average age of my roster, but in terms of just somebody that is going to be there as a staple, in the women's division for a very long time. I think she's like 23, 24 years old, something like that. I mean, it's insane what Roxanne is doing right now, and we're getting to finally see that on the main roster a little bit. It looks like it might actually play out at the next PLE, which is interesting. So I'm hoping that she is on the main roster to stay. I'm going to break down a little bit of each of our rosters here, Maddie. I'm going to tell you or see what you are surprised by here. So the average age of my roster is a little bit over 33 years old. You are right at 27 and a half years old. My oldest superstar is Penta. Yours is Kofi Kingston, part of the tag team there. And then my youngest was Obafemi, just by a few months, beating out, who was it? Braun Breaker. He's only like 6 months younger than Braun Breaker. And then yours is obviously Tiffany Stratton.
Yeah, I didn't think I had a tough battle here with age because I wasn't looking up the ages, but I felt like, I was thinking with the Roman Reigns, with the Cody Rhodes, that I was going to be a little older. So it's kind of crazy to think that in mind. Like I said, I might have taken a CM Punk, knowing that, but like you said, it's how long are these? Just because their age doesn't mean that's going to be how long they're going to stick around. So,
right. Yeah. Not everybody's sticking around like Taker and Flair and, those sorts of things. So, all right, man, I know this is hard to believe because we just came off of all the WrestleMania build and the hype and the predictions and all of that. But our next show, we're right back to it, man. We're right back to Backlash.
Well, yeah, Backlash looks like it's turning out to be a great card for being only a couple weeks away. We've got Logan Paul versus Jey Uso. We've got Cena Orton. What? This quick? Like,
yeah,
I thought we were gonna have slow burn with this, but no, it's right to the point.
Yeah, got Lyra and Becky. There's some NXT talent that we were just talking about that could play into the card, or maybe it's further on the part of the NXT weekend or whatnot. But yeah, man, I think it's going to shape up to be, although quick build, right? But that's kind of how Backlash usually goes. But I think we could get some really interesting stories coming out of this. Plus, before we jump out, we got the re-debut of Aleister Black. You got a lot coming down the pipeline in terms of returns, in terms of call-ups, the draft around the corner. It's a good time to be in WWE, man.
Yeah, a lot of, and it's not just rehash stuff. We're not getting just rematches from WrestleMania, which used to be like that was the tradition. Backlash
it's the
was
only
just
thing.
It was like watching a watered down WrestleMania. So we're getting a lot of action on the WWE brand, and there's a lot of action coming your way on our channel. Make sure you check out our shorts. We're all over, as you can see, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We're also on Insta and the Talk, baby.
Matty Riser, as smooth as that Penta walk during his entrance. I'm Matt Kelly. We're WrestleMats. We'll catch you next week to talk some Backlash.